I know that many of you know what Dataroma.com is, but there are a lot of newer investors that really don't know what Dataroma.com is. So I'm going to show you how you can snoop in on what the super investors are buying. And regardless of when you are watching this, you will always be able to go to Dataroma.com and see what the top super investors are buying. What's up? I'm Russ. I have this little YouTube channel, podcast, and newsletter sharing with you our journey and path to being net worth millionaires. And then the second stop will be an investment portfolio of at least $1 million. So here we are at Dataroma.com. Some weirdos and lunatics call it Dataroma.com, but it is a completely free platform, which is supported by a lot of ads, and it tracks 81 super investors, and it's really easy to navigate and has a pretty clean interface. So first things first, how do they get all this data to share with all of us what the super investors are buying? So it comes from something called a 13F filing, which is a quarterly report that has to be filed with the SEC, the Security and Exchange Commission, and anyone managing over $100 million has to file within 45 days of the quarter's end. So this is literally a snapshot from that one day, and the very next day things could have changed and we won't know until much later what the heck they did. And you'll see on the left-hand side that they have when these were updated. And I also want to preface this before we go any further, the pros and the cons, which the pros are that it is great for investment ideas. We can see what these professional fund managers are buying or selling, and we can look for trends across multiple managers. So the cons are that the data can be 45 days to 4 months old. It gives us just a literal snapshot of their portfolio on the day that they made the filing. And of course, we won't know exactly why they bought or why they sold. The first box will be the 10 most owned stocks. Not a lot of surprises here. Then the top 10 stocks by percentage of portfolio. So again, a lot of these look quite the same from the right to the left. And then we'll see the top big bets. And some of these people are crazy. They get their conviction way up, not for the faint of heart, where we see the max of a portfolio. 4 people have big bets on Estee Lauder, and the biggest bet with the max of 100% portfolio is if you click on the stock's name, it'll bring you to show who has them. And we see that famous Big Short guy, Michael Burry, has 100% of his portfolio in Estee Lauder right now. And then further clicking on Michael Burry's Scion Asset Management will show us that they have a reported price of $66 that he bought, only $13.2 million value, and he's up 38%. So way to go, Michael Burry. So these are interesting to see. These are just high conviction plays, but again, it could be high conviction for a week, a month, a couple days. We just don't know. This is from that snapshot of when they had to make the filing. And Michael Burry could have long blown out of Estee Lauder, and we won't know until the next filing. And then scrolling down a little bit more will give us what we came here for this video. The top 10 buys last quarter, and hit that little I. You'll see it's based on 3 out of 81 super investor filings so far. So this is going to change a little bit, but it's just to give you a flavor of what you can look at and look at often. You might get some good ideas. So what these 3 super investors bought most recently while we wait for the 13F filings to come in. So thank you, Google, for this answer. But this goes to show you why it can be such stale data, because the Q2 filing on June 30th is the end, but they have a 45-day grace period. So in all reality, they're due by August 14th, 2025. So it may be a minute before we know exactly what they're buying. And this just goes to show you that it's great for idea generation, but you can't just run out and buy something because you saw it in a 13F filing, because again, they may have blown out of that position by the time you get the data. The top 10 buys last quarter, second quarter 2025 so far, are Taiwan Semiconductor, ticker TSM, Microchip Technology, ticker MCHP, Advanced Micro Devices, AMD, Google, ticker GOOGL, Nike, this is one I've been holding, ticker NKE. And then we got Nove Inc., ticker NOV, National Oilwell Varco, oil and gas company, Toll Brothers, ticker TOL, Meritage Homes Corp, ticker MTH, Lennar Corp, ticker LEN, and Stellantis, way to go Jeep, ticker STLA. And it's interesting that an early pattern, we see a lot of tech at the top, and toward the bottom of the top 10 here, we see a lot of housing and construction. So is it a trend? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see more data. And because it's only 3 super investors reporting, they are all the identical for the top 10 buys last quarter by percentage. And then if you hover over the gray arrow and click it, you get yourself some more data and a little bit expanse, and you see in there DR Horton, Icon, Oshkosh Corp, which I have done work for them, ticker OSK. Shout out to all y'all in Oshkosh working out there by the airport in Milwaukee. So that's 13 buys reported so far, and then there's some more breakdowns up top. You want to go by 6-month buys, quarter sells. It's all self-explanatory. And then they give you some other interesting ideas too. You can see 5% or greater holdings in their portfolios that are a shade above their 52-week low, which that currently is Copart. Very interesting company, ticker CPRT, which is very well run, and they do online vehicle auctions, including stuff like salvage and wholesale auto things from what I understand. Play around with the site. There's lots of different things. They give you the latest significant insider buys, and then they'll extrapolate that out to a 3-month aggregation. And that's about the bulk of Dataroma. There's some other things that you can do, as well as looking at an S&P 500 grid, which out of the 500 names, Microsoft is the most held, and the least is Zebra Technologies, ticker ZBRA, with no super investors holding them. Something else that I want to show you, one of my favorite investors is over here on the left. Yes, Warren Buffett, obviously one of them. It's Terry Smith from the Fundsmith portfolio. Now, this was updated May 15th, 2025, but if we click on his name, it brings us to the full portfolio holdings. So there's all the holdings. You can sort it by activity, what they bought and sold, or you want to do just the buys, just the sells, or their entire history. I had started a position in Zoetis. Terry Smith has been holding them for a few years. Sometimes he sells, sometimes he buys. And in this instance, he did a whole heck of a lot of buying, upping his stake by 1,020%. But it's handy if you click activity. It's a little bit of a neater aggregation to show you that the top buy was Zoetis at 1,020% increase. Also bought Doximity, ticker DOCS, Texas Instruments, Qualys, ticker QLYS, Paycom, and then they initiated positions. That's when you see buy, because they didn't add to their shares of Intuit and Catalyst Pharmaceuticals, ticker CPRX. We don't always know why fund managers will sell, but of course they buy for one reason only, is that they expect that stock price to go up. We just don't know if they expect it to go up in a day, a week, a month, or a decade. So you always have to have your own conviction, and I was building my conviction on Zoetis. So it was kind of a really nice thing to see an investor that I admire buying Zoetis as well. So kind of feels like hopefully great minds think alike on this one. We won't go through all of them. A whole lot of reductions in his portfolio, including selling completely out of PepsiCo, almost 6 million shares, ticker PEP, and it was almost 4% of the Fundsmith portfolio, and IDEX Corp, ticker IDEX. And then just to give you a little more flavor on why you cannot always follow what these super investors do in Q4 2024, look at that. We see that they reduced their Zoetis position. So they were selling Zoetis in Q4 2024, and in Q1 2025, they were buying Zoetis. If you click on super investors, it will give you the top 10 holdings currently and list all 81 super investors. And another neat thing, like say you want to look at Guy Spear from Aquamarine Capital, click on his name, which by the way, Guy Spear, another investor that I admire, he said that he got to know Warren and saw that Warren lived his best life by reading annual reports all day and all night. And Guy said that he realized that really wasn't him. So him living his best life was going to be what made him happy. And if that meant he wasn't going to be the world's greatest investor, that's okay, because he would be working on being the best version of Guy Spear that he could be and letting the cards fall where they may. And if you scroll down, you can see the sector analysis for the fund managers. And really cool, it'll show you articles and commentaries all aggregated there, although these seem a little bit old. September of 2023. So instead, click on commentaries and articles. And that's a little bit better. July 11th, 2025, which is the date we're recording this. 2 Warren Buffett stocks to consider with big yields, which is from a fellow Chicagoan, Susan Jabinski. And she tells us that it would be Chevron, ticker CVX, and Kraft Heinz, ticker KHC. So you see, the ideas keep coming, and it's all aggregated right there in Dataroma, which is free. Hello, Susan. You got to tell us in the comments below, what stocks are you buying that the super investors are buying? Like I'm buying Zoetis, which Terry Smith from Fundsmith is also buying as of the last report. So remember, he could have completely blown out of Zoetis. So it's so important to have your own conviction and do your own research, because you can't borrow conviction, and you gotta know what you're buying and why you're buying it. For a lot of you that get the free and fantabulous weekly newsletter, it costs nothing to you. I share a lot of this information, so if you do want to see some of what I'm doing and some interesting thoughts that I'm having about investing or personal finance, click the link below or go to DapperDividends.com and get yourself some free weekly newsletter. And what I'm buying is dividend income, and in this floating little box next to my head, we had a record-setting $879 dividend month. So if you want to see exactly how we did that and that came about, click that floating little box, and if you do that, I'll tell you all about it there.